All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I'm your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I am so excited to be back with everyone. And joining me, of course, is your co-host, Pam Cass. Hello, Pam. How are you?
I am fantastic. And I was going to share a little story. I had a coffee this morning with a client, been a client for a very long time. And she was telling me the story about when she was in college. She was on a sorority. Her best friend in the sorority, like she was the president and then she was the president. And so they followed each other. She was in her wedding. This was in Ohio. She lived at the time in New Jersey and the other friend was in Ohio. The wedding happens and then never talk to her again because they didn't have Facebook and cell phones and so she tried to look her up over the years. And so about a month ago, she's like, I might just look on Facebook and see if I can find her because she didn't know her married name or anything. Found her. She lives in Fort Collins.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what are the chances of somebody from your past that did not live in Fort Collins decide to move to Fort Collins? She didn't have her number. She has showed up at her door, knocked on the door, and now they have reconnected since it was 73 when they graduated.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's amazing.
yeah, so it was just such a cool story of just somebody coming back into your world that meant something. And now they're friends again.
Exactly. So, I mean, just point of reference, that's like over 50 years ago. So that's
Over 50 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story.
Yeah, and I told her I'm recording a podcast this afternoon. I'm sharing your story because I think it's such a cool story. So if there's somebody from your past that you have lost touch with, research them, find them. Who knows? They could be living in the same city.
They could be. I don't know if we're going to advise that they show up on their doors.
Don't do that. You might get shot. Don't do that. But she's in her 70s, so it was pretty harmless.
I love it. No, it's an amazing story. That's an amazing story. Yeah, we're going to get all of the emails in. And I went to their house and they were not excited to see me.
No, they're like, ew, I didn't want you to find me.
We're avoiding that. That. But that is a lovely story. I do love that. And the power of technology and the fact that she in her 70s is like, I'm embracing technology and I'm going to find this friend. I feel like when we talk about, when somebody's comes top of mind, or I always say like this person's in my heart, so I just reach out to them. I just send them a quick message like, hey, thinking about you, want to make sure that you're good. Let me know if you need anything. That does not have a timestamp on it. Like this can clearly happen 50 plus years later.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody comes to your mind and it's been a minute, reach out to them.
Yeah. What's the harm?
I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, we have a guest today. I know, surprise, surprise, our listeners are probably a little caught off guard because we've not had a guest and it's just been Pam and I shooting the breeze.
Which we can do pretty easily. We can.
I'm surprised that we just riffed, a whole hour and more on our last recording that we had. But here we are. Give us the gift of gab. Two Virgos in a room. We're going to talk ourselves out of it.
Oh,
so
my
here
gosh.
you go. Why don't you tell our listeners who's joining us today?
Absolutely. So I am excited to introduce Kevin White. He has almost 3 decades experience as a technology leader, but his own Act 2 in life has led him to prioritizing fulfillment in life. Kevin works now as a business therapist who focuses on helping women business leaders while being located in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, which I'm so jealous. But welcome. So excited to have you with us today. And so I'd like to just hand it over to you for you to just kind of share your story and what led you to where you are today.
Yeah. Well, I was just chilling, listening to your story. That was a great way to start. But yeah, I guess, we found ourselves down here in Mexico because this is one of those destinations that people want to go to redefine what's going on in their life and, get out of the day to day. And that's what we help people do, is usually helping entrepreneurs take a different perspective of their business and look at like what's really working for them and what possibly needs to change. And that's what we do alongside people.
I love that.
I love that. But this came on as chapter 2, season 2, new season.
Yep.
What brought you to this place? What was the realization, that moment that you understood that there was something more, that you wanted to create something different to help other people and their lives?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been a genesis over time, but like at the very beginning, my wife's a big part of the story. But her mom in 2006 died of cancer, and that was kind of our I guess the beginning moment of us asking questions. So her parents, just as an outsider coming in the early, we got married in 2001, so late 99, on witnessing them, they were just a great couple, and they had a lot of, I don't know how to explain it. They just kind of had a magic to their relationship, and they had great businesses, and everything looked great. And then we found out through the period of time where mom had cancer that there was some things going on behind the scenes, and so I guess what the conversations with her mom in those last 6 months is what got us to be asking questions as we grew our own careers. Like, okay, is this enough? Like, is this what I really want? Is this going to, also she left us some money where we invested it in real estate actually. And we had that period of time, but we were also asking the questions like, do we really want to be landlords? Like, is that our thing? Is that what we want to do? And then eventually we came up with some answers. And part of that for me was, as a technology person, and even from a young age, I was addicted to pornography, which was not a beautiful story. And I brought that into our marriage because of a bunch of things that I found out in my healing process. But really, there was so much more available, right, in our life. And so we started to we sold all our rentals, and we eventually took all of that nest egg and put it into investing in our own selves first, healing ourselves first, and then eventually in building a company for other people that want to follow that same path. Maybe get out of corporate, do their own thing, have a business, and I think all of us that have had a business realize that there are issues that come up as we start to build a business if we've never had a business before. And it's a great way to choose growth. And so we're here to help people through those boundaries that come up along the way.
Okay. Yeah. I love how you say that, to choose, we can grow through that, through owning a business. Absolutely. There is opportunity for it.
Yeah, I think I've probably grown the most in starting our business. Honestly, even more than those times where I was, because when you have, for me at least, my comfort zone was in technology, in software, in building software, and helping people with data, and I worked with awesome companies, big billion-dollar companies, but it wasn't. There was so much more. I just didn't know that at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you were starting to question things, what were some of the questions you asked when you and your wife, you started questioning things like, what are we doing? What were some of those questions that you asked? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, she asked a lot of questions.
Okay.
I mean, I did too, but like Jamie, if you get to know Jamie, she's asked a lot of questions, a lot of really good, powerful questions. And I guess what she was feeling was that there's a side of me that she saw when we were dating that I didn't step into, right? Like my leadership, more driven side, And really kind of, I guess a lot of the questions we were asking were around what are spiritual gifts, like what are
Mm.
native, natural gifts that we have that we're not tapping into. And that, I guess that question was probably one of the most powerful because we got to, I guess early on in this journey, we did a lot with personality profiles. So like the DISC or Myers-Briggs or any of those, we were into all of that stuff. However, like all of those personality profiles, they really work on how you perceive yourself in a given time period, right? And so I started to see over time for myself, we both saw this, but I saw for myself that my personality profile was changing based on what I thought I needed to be. And so that's a good sign that there was more there. I didn't really know who I was, is really what was going on. So we found some profiles eventually that actually tell you who you are. And they're more of an Eastern, like human design. I don't know if you've heard of human design as one. That profile is more of an Eastern or Jewish mysticism background that has a lot more about who you are. And another one that's very closely related to that is gene keys. So both of those are using nothing more than your birth date, your location that you were born, and your time that you were born. So it's connecting to the energy of the universe at the time that you were born. So that's way different than, oh, this is my perspective of who I am. And so that was, I guess, what came out and what we started to question and focus on.
Okay. That is so interesting. So it was those untapped gifts that you have that you just didn't even know. So when you're working with women leaders, are you kind of doing the same thing with them, to kind of taking them through this process to figure out what they're...
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that's where my wife comes in the story. Like, she was working for her parents, and since they were doing so well in business, like, she started a business with them. They invited her back to the city she grew up. She wasn't really too enamored with college. She's definitely an entrepreneur. And so they offered her a position starting a furniture business when she was, 19, 20. And so she took him up on that. She knew she would love to do that with her mom. Her mom was she was an architect, but like a designer of homes and cabinets and all of that kind of stuff, right? She just had a talent for it. And so, but over time, she started to understand that she wasn't fully allowing herself to step into what she wanted to do, and felt like she needed to do it through her parents instead of doing it on her own. And so eventually her dad and her were the leaders in the business, and she built a team of about 35 people and across several businesses. But they didn't have the same vision. And so eventually it came to a head, and she kind of pushed all his buttons to make him let her go. And so then when it came to building our business, there was a whole another set of things, right? And so along that journey, I learned how to support her. And I thought she was perfect, and she didn't. I was the one that had all the problems. But in reality, like, we all have things that we've got to step into if we're going to be all that we are called to be.
So when you find what your unique genius is, how are you able to use that in working with other people? Because you said, you're working with your wife, you knew what her geniuses were. Like, how do you meld those together? Is that something you've cracked that code?
Yeah, I mean, so I leave to Jamie. So if you know human design at all, Jamie is a splenic manifester. So we leave to her to evaluate like the business, and is the business aligned with you as a person? And also we can do a profile of your business. Your business has certain attributes because your business was also born at a certain date. And so we can do that. We can look at, like, how do you understand how to fit into your business, or what's your business is calling, let's say. But then from there, as long as there's alignment, and usually there's usually like, what what we're usually dealing with is we're afraid about stepping into something, or we have a business already, and since we're already working with entrepreneurs, right? So there's a business there, but we're afraid to, reach out to clients that are this size, or reach out to a client or a prospect that has these attributes, right? And so then we work through those limiting beliefs that we would have, or whatever is blocking us doing that.
Cool.
Wow. I think that's a component that I've never thought of as entrepreneurs, that the business itself has its own design because it has its own set of characteristics and traits that that goes well beyond like your brand. We're talking deeper than your brand.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. I never even considered that piece of it. Now there's work that I need to do in that space.
Yeah, I mean, so usually it's kind of hard sometimes to figure out like when is your business born. It's usually what we try to do is focus on. Usually we all have paperwork about when we started it, but it's best to actually think about like if you can go back in your mind to the day that it just was like, I got to do this, right? That's probably most powerful. And if you can get to a time frame of a couple hours, you're going to be kind of close, at least. But if you can't do that, then use the paperwork, or at least when you submitted the paperwork would be best.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Cool.
Well, we know that as ideas are formed, that people will start the business, right? They get the website, they get the name and register with the Secretary of State. And then, 2 to 5 years later, they get they actually build out the website and start the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I like to go with when you think about when it's born, it's not, it's more about that for us with Belief Crew, it came to us like one Saturday morning, I believe. We were just talking, had some free time. We were talking about business, and we're like, we want to have this type of business, or it was just coming to us like, wow, wouldn't it be amazing to have this type of business? And it's coming true. And like, even 3 months ago, I don't know that I would have seen it as well as we do today. It's like several parts of our business have come together in the last few months, and we've started to see it even better. So it helps to know, it's definitely helped us to know our human design, like our business is human design.
Yeah.
So we have 6, I guess a little bit about that story. So we have 6 boys.
Okay.
And so we have all kinds of different human design people, kids, right? And so you learn how to work with them, and you learn more about their personality. And we soul school, so they don't go to, I suppose there might be an English school down here, but the main school here in our area is a German school. So you have to learn German, and then you can learn English and Spanish. So they don't know German, so that doesn't really fit. But anyway, so our focus with our kids is to help them to be entrepreneurial. We think that's going to be more of the future. Now we're going to get things wrong a lot along the way, right? Like as a kid, you don't know everything about your calling, and that's for good reason. So we just navigate like, what do you want to do now, and what do you care about right now? And we support them in that. And whatever it is, they get to choose. And then eventually they might switch over time, but we get to learn by doing that how to fit into what their design is, right? Instead of letting their design lead. And then we follow along and support that. And so we are doing that with our business now too, the same of, I have a 3-5 generator, as my youngest. He's 5 years old. And I have a pretty good feeling as to who he is. He's usually up about 18 hours. So if you think about it, 18-hour day every day, that means eventually he's going to be up in the middle of the night, and he just keeps going around the clock. And he's like one of those people that if you wanted to change that, you would become miserable, and he wouldn't be too happy either, right? Like he's just very driven. So it works. Like our relationship with him is beautiful because we're not working against that schedule. Like we work with that schedule, we figure it out. Our business is a 3-5 manifesting generator. So you can take some of what, some of the template of what we see in our youngest son and apply it to the business. And we understand that the business thrives best in a network, and that it's got a vision. It is a vision, and we want to keep to that vision. And so, for example.
Okay.
That's huge. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And that's, when you talk about the journey itself that you've taken, I mean, you own a business and you're running a business with your wife, and having an understanding of these key principles are really important, but that doesn't make it any easier, right? Like it doesn't take the challenge away.
No, it actually makes it so that it's just like, I don't know, the way I like to think about it is like the hero's journey. All of our own hero's journeys, right? I don't know. To me, the strongest example of this would be The Hobbit. I don't know if everyone's maybe read or heard about The Hobbit, but like The Hobbit is what's his name? Bilbo Baggins. I shouldn't even try. Anyway, The Hobbit is living in this beautiful little cozy home, right? And then this wizard comes and visits him and says they have to go on this journey, and he's kind of like, "Why? I don't want to go on this journey." And I think that's really where all of us start, is that we're comfortable where we are. And it's like, I guess maybe Tony Robbins says it best. We all have 5 basic human needs. And so in our 20s and 30s, usually we're focused on like the having significance, maybe uncertainty, different mix of those needs, right? But then when we get into our late 30s, 40s, 50s, where we usually become more focused on our 2 other needs, which are growth and contribution. Sorry. So those are more spiritual needs, right? And so to do that, we have to, at least in our opinion, we have to find what is our reason for being here? What's our calling? And that's going to give us a deeper connection to fulfillment and understanding how to meet those needs in our life and the people we're working with.
I love that. And so for our listeners, would the first step for them be to do the human design test, kind of get an idea? Because I know there are a lot of people out there that don't know what their contribution and what their growth is and what their passion is, and are kind of just showing up and rinse and repeat every day. So I love the idea of being able to figure that out.
Yeah. I definitely would say start there. What we typically do, and you can do this, is I would get your human design and your gene key profile, and then take the results and put it in ChatGPT and have, or whatever your flavor is, and have it like give you a summary, because it can be kind of overwhelming. And it also would be, it's also good to, go to someone that, and neither one of us are certified in those, but we have friends that are, and partners. And so find someone in your network that does human design profiles and can tell you about it, to learn more about it, because there's going to be a lot of like highly specific things. But ChatGPT is a good place to start because it knows both of them pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's more for the summary. Don't go there to AI.
Yeah, correct.
The report itself created.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
no, it won't create the report. Like it doesn't know how to.
Yeah.
It can take the results that you find and tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, decipher it a little bit.
Which is a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Yeah.
Well, you started to talk about, the folks that you have that you partner with that are on your team that really help in taking your clients through the experience and working with you all. Walk us a little bit through that process. When you have a new client that comes on board, what can they expect? And what does that journey typically look like when they opt in to work with you and your team?
Okay. Yeah. So today we are working on building out, so it's not just Jamie and I working with people. So what we found along the way is we call it being called, and this is not perfect, but let's say it's like we feel like we're called into for-profit ministry. Let's say it's not really, but that's as close as we can get. And it's kind of a strange place, right? Like it doesn't really fit in the world, which is fine. Most callings don't, and that's the whole point of them. But like along the way, we've had a lot of people that maybe can't necessarily afford to do a year-long program or to work at the level that we like to work with people. And so we're building out a team of practitioners that do coaching and healing and whatever they do, and having a whole team of us being able to help people. So we can take people that are either people we worked with in the past for free, or people that want to just get started and maybe are using platforms that exist already online but want a little bit more of a personal work on that, or focus on them. And so in that case, what we start with is, like, if you're starting with, hey, I just want to get an understanding of what healing means and what I need to potentially focus on next, we would start you on a program where you have a certain number of appointments per month and meet with the people that are appropriate for you, based on what you feel is right, looking over the options. And we would do an interview up front to help you with that. As far as like our entrepreneurs, a lot of times the people Jamie and I are working with and spending a lot of time with, and I work on site, or we have, like, I go to their place of business for a couple of days and work with them, or we have them coming down to Mexico. So if we do a program that's for Jamie and I working with people, we, like I said, it's typically focused on a year of time at least. And our goal is to be like a lifetime trusted advisor, right? Where we're sitting in their business, we're helping them through the things that come up. And so in that case, we usually start with getting to know you in Mexico, just like sponsor you coming down here, get to know the culture and get out of the busyness of the USA, right? And then after we get to know each other, then we propose a plan for the year. And like I said, that's typically where Jamie's usually doing like a couple calls a month. And she's focused on more of the strategy and the business side of things. And I'm usually going on site to work with people one-on-one, or they can come down here too if they want, or anywhere else in the world. Actually, I travel, so I'll meet people wherever they want to go.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Who is your ideal client? Who is that ideal person that would benefit from working with you and your wife?
Yeah, so the ones that work with Jamie and I are usually, I hesitate to say ages, but most of them are in their 50s and 60s, actually. And they're like, okay, we've tried a bunch of different things, and there's this one thing that we can't figure out, or we're having a struggle with that. I think that's the age part is going to shift. So one thing that human design teaches us is that the universe has a definition. So there is an energy in the universe, and actually it changes every day, right? And of course, there's people that focus on that. I don't. That's like overwhelming to me that it's changing every day. But anyway, there's this, in 2027, there's going to be a new shift, like it's going to change for the first time since the 1600s. So I think that this is going to be a lot more people that are interested in, like, what's the spiritual side of your business, what's going on. And I see that every day. Like, maybe it's just because I'm in this space, but I feel like there's more and more people. But the people that are in their late 50s and 60s, I guess, are at that point where they're like, what do I need to do? And are willing to say, hey, yeah, I'm willing to invest in my business. And typically we're talking about people that are wanting to make that shift from, say, $1 million in revenue per year, or 2 million, and go up to that 5 to 10 million range is who we're usually working with.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.